Canadian dream with hard times in the podcast world, Ric Flair. Hard times, Ric Flair. We gonna gut to the top, Ric Flair. Let me tell you, hard times, baby. Hard times. And for those of you who are still with us after that terrible Dusty Rhodes impression, welcome back to the 1867 Sports Show for episode 14. For those of you who are wondering why I am looking like this, I'm paying an homage to Dwayne The Rock Johnson's final boss persona at WrestleMania this past weekend. Kyle, what's your persona for this week?
I'll just take on the commentator role here. So I guess Pat McAfee coming in there from the top ropes. But I have to say, you've got the vest look going down. I was saying off air, you couldn't find a cowhide one to wear there, but you got a leather like weight belt on below camera right
No,
now that we can't see, or what?
no, not a leather weight belt. Although I probably should get one to kind of hide the gut and everything. But no, it's all good. It's all good. Like I said, I don't think that the cowhide vests are very prominent in Ottawa, Ontario, per se. But obviously it's
Bovine capital of Ontario.
bovine capital of Eastern Ontario.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that we were talking a little bit before, but I actually, in honor of our episode last week, I actually, watched WrestleMania this past weekend for the first time since 2001 or 2002.
Reliving some childhood memories there, were you?
You know what? And it's funny that you say that because I think a lot of people did on the second night when you got like The Rock and John Cena and The Undertaker even made an appearance in the final, the final match. It was pretty entertaining. But yeah, they did a great job with both nights. You had obviously Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson making appearances with luchador masks on. Snoop Dogg and Bubba Ray Dudley were special guest announcers and referees. It was really good, and
And you can
obviously,
tell with the Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, which one is retired and is not contractually bound to do anything, because Lane was kind of just there for moral support, whereas Jason was very
yeah,
quick to throw Dominic Mysterio into the
yeah,
pole and was grabbing
and
chairs and loving
he's
it.
hopping over the ropes. But I mean, it's pretty impressive what he did. He
Yeah.
did the one single bound over the top rope, but yeah, like I said, it was good. The young adolescent in me was very entertained with all the nostalgia that they brought out. And again, we talked about him last week, but Canadian boy Sami Zayn actually won his Intercontinental Championship, which
Hey,
was
golf
kind of
claps
like
for Sammy.
golf clap for Sammy.
There we
But
go.
yeah, they kind of played up the Rocky the Rocky type of montage, I want to say.
Right.
So it was kind of like a cheesy thing, but it was good. It was good. So, anyways, but this is my final boss motif for tonight.
There you go. You're pulling it off well. So a little blend of Hollywood rock in there as well too. You got the sunglasses going. It's great. But I
Yeah,
think it's a kind of a smart move what they've done. Number one, from a business standpoint, you double your gate, you double your pay-per-view buys
yeah,
by splitting it. But for those that were watching it, you know, 5, 10 years ago, those were getting to be some pretty marathon session WrestleManias where you're looking like 6 hours, like a lot of dead time that's sort of dragging because they're just trying to cram so many storylines into this one night that splitting it into the two. And even what happened with, obviously Cody Rhodes loses to The Rock and Roman Reigns night one, and you go, oh no, is it gonna happen again? And then night two, they finish the story, all of that. I don't know how many interferences backstage if you actually counted them all up there, but who's who
yeah.
was coming down that ramp on Sunday night.
I mean, you're expecting, the ghost of Eddie Guerrero to come down at one point. Like it was good. Like I said, it's very nostalgic. I think that with Triple H kind of, the main person behind the storytelling and whatnot, now you're getting a lot of these like, hey, this is gonna work. We're not living in 1980 anymore. We're doing things that are kind of modern with a nice twist. And again, I use the word again, but homage to the 1990s and the Attitude Era, which is a good blend.
Yeah, absolutely. But shifting focus a little bit to upcoming sporting events there, where I don't think they would let you into Augusta dressed how you are currently, but bit of a golf
I'm more
tournament
I'm
coming
more
down.
I'm more dressed for the Waste Management Open
Yeah,
if I'm to be perfectly honest.
yeah, you would fit right in there. Let me tell you, you'd be
Damn you
sun caked
people,
and
go back to your shanties.
listen. I just had to shoot it off a Bigfoot's foot over there. You play it as it lies.
Shooter, I thought we were going to be friends. And obviously, now that we're mentioning RIP to Canadian comedian, legend Joe Flaherty, who portrayed the heckler in Happy Gilmore. But yeah, I mean, it's a big tournament coming up, and this is kind of like the golfers. Let's just say their Super Bowl.
Yeah,
And the Masters is always the kickoff of golf season. It's like the springtime, opener, but it's also the biggest event that I think people tune in for. It's fantastic. Anybody, even people who don't watch golf, they always have to tune in to at least one day of the Masters just to see the pageantry behind it. The course is always in immaculate condition, and there's just something different about golf in Augusta, Georgia.
yeah. Well, I think it's a couple factors, right? Like, unless you're a snowbird who's flying down to Florida or Arizona or going somewhere, near the equator, once winter rolls around, it's kind of, you look around and okay, you can see a little bit of green in your front lawn. Most of the snowbanks are gone. I don't think there's too many pristine courses that are open right now, but there are some cow pastures you can go and, kind of chase a little white ball around if you're so inclined this time of year. So it's kind of kicking off even the weekend duffers golf season as well too. And it's unique in the sense that, unlike the British Open or US Open, where it kind of rotates to a different course every year, it's the same course, it's the same holes, the same layout, right? So it's got that, unique feel to it that everyone knows Amen Corner, and everyone knows,
Yep.
okay, you can't leave it short on certain holes, otherwise it's coming right into the water. And
Yeah.
it really is unlike any other golf tournament out there. And it's kind of encapsulated in the nostalgia of it, where it's on my bucket list to go once at some point in my life, to go down there and actually watch a round or two. But $1.50 sandwiches. I saw a post
I know.
somewhere, $66 you could buy one of every item on the entire menu. 66
Which
bucks at a
is
Sens game gets you like a beer and a hot dog.
it's kind of like that Miami Marlins offer right now, where it's like $52 all you can eat ticket.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of want to try that too. So maybe in the near future we'll schedule a little road trip down. We'll go hit up a Marlins game, take advantage of what they've got there,
Get
and
a
then on
lot
the
of
way back
heartburn
up.
and indigestion from
Yeah,
ballpark
yeah,
franks and whatnot.
exactly. And we'll be in fine form to go to Augusta
Yeah, some
and
pimento
sample,
sandwiches. Yeah.
yeah, and sample all the delicious delights they've got there too.
Yeah. But obviously, Canadian show, Canadian content. We got
Yeah,
four Canadians swinging some clubs there, and we'll run through each of them. But not to be spoiler alert, but the sports books don't love them as far as their
no,
odds
no,
to win it all. So if you're hoping to see a Mike Weir 2.0, it might be a bit of a stretch this year down at Augusta. So we might as well start with the I guess shortest odds of all of them there, and that's our friend Corey Connors, who seventh Masters appearance at this point. So
yeah,
he's been a regular guest down there in the great state of Georgia. Actually tied for sixth in 2022. And he also has three top 10 finishes at Augusta. So he's not someone who's ever, necessarily challenged for the overall title, but he's been in the mix, and he's certainly not missing too many cuts. So if you're going to be putting your money on anyone to still be golfing come Sunday out of the four we're going to talk about, I would have to assume it's going to be him.
yeah. And he's actually out of the four my favorite. to win, to at least be in the running to contend. You mentioned it right there. The experience factors everything when it comes to golfing at the Masters. You look at the golfers like Fred Couples, Tom Watson, like the guys who have been golfing this course forever. Doesn't matter how old they get.
Mhm.
The first 2 days, they're always kind of sniffing around, with the top, and then obviously as it's a war of attrition. The
Yeah.
Longer the weekend goes, they start to fall off. But that's that savvy veteran presence that you get at tournaments like this. You get the Masters, the British Opens, any type of major event, the veteran savvy really starts to come out. So I think from the perspective of Corey Connors, he's had some success at the PGA level, right? He's won a few tournaments. He's had some top 10 finishes. Obviously, you just mentioned he finished top 10 in the Masters before. I think that if anyone's going to make a run, he's probably the guy to do it, because I don't think he's the type of person that gets rattled. It's just him maintaining that level of consistent play is key for him, right? He doesn't hit the ball too long. He's kind of average when it comes to greens and regulation. So if he just maintains that level of consistency, I think that he can maintain, in the being in the top 15 to 20 heading into Sunday and giving himself a chance.
Yeah. And that's kind of the beauty that is the Masters, right? It's not one of these modern courses where, the Bryson DeChambeaus of the world can just absolutely uncork, the hell with this par five. I'm going to cut across the entire water and try and just bomb some 330-yard carry, ridiculous drive out there. It doesn't really favor those who hit the ball far, which is why Rory McIlroy, although he's small in stature, can hit the piss out of a golf ball. He struggles. This is the only one he
Yeah.
hasn't won, because one of his biggest advantages, which is the fact that he's long off the tee, it's kind of negated here. And that's where Connors kind of has that advantage over the other three, because you look at a lot of the metrics in terms of iron play on the PGA Tour. He's in the top 20 in just about every category as far as accuracy, 150 yards in, all of that. So he's not
Yeah.
long off the tee, but you don't need to be long off the tee at Augusta to be able to be
You need
in
to be accurate.
contention.
Yeah. Need to be accurate for sure.
Yeah. So he's only coming in at 80-1 odds right there. So that tells you everything you need to know about our quartet of Canadians. That there are some PGA players that are on absolute heaters right now. Scotty Scheffler, who's just winning every time he seems to
Every
pick up
turn.
a golf ball this year. But Adam Hadwin is also going to be in contention this year, and he's one that has had kind of a checkered history with the tournament, in the
Yeah.
sense that he'll qualify 1 year and then he'll not qualify for 2 years. Then he'll be back and then he'll miss the cut. And even when he does make it, again, not a ton of great results. His best finish was tied for 24th back in 2018. He does have 3 runner-up finishes in the last calendar year on the PGA Tour. So he's been in contention in some other tournaments. Augusta, different beast, obviously, but
Yeah.
is this the one where maybe he flirts with a kind of top 20 finish and starts to piece it all together there? You would like to see it, but he's one that you want to talk about consistency. This has kind of been his kryptonite course here,
Yeah.
where he's faltered pretty quickly and just not even made it to Saturday in a lot of his appearances.
Yeah, and I think out of the four of them, he's probably the one I have the least confidence in to finish, very high in this tournament. So, I mean, he's ranked 46 in the world, so obviously he's got a level of, moderate consistency when it comes to things like ball striking, greens regulation, just overall efficiency. But you just hit the nail on the head. His inconsistency when it comes to make a cut, miss a cut, make a cut, miss a cut, that doesn't bode well for these types of things, because like we just mentioned with Corey Connors, the moment just gets too big for some golfers and they get in their own head.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens with a guy like Adam Hadwin, which has been kind of his MO for throughout his career. So I want to see him do well. I don't have a lot of confidence, because nothing about his game really shouts. And again, this is me speaking from from a coach perspective. And there's no way that I would
dressed as final boss Rock, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, right now.
Yeah. But I mean, again, this is not something that I'll say I can do anything nearly as good because this guy's a professional. But when I look at confidence levels going into this, Adam Hadwin has to be near the bottom of the list, not just for Canadians, but for the total field.
Mhm. Yeah, and you look at it too, right? Like the nice part about the Masters is there's quite a few amateurs who you've actually seen have some success in past years there, and actually, go deep into Sunday and not necessarily vie for a title, but they're piecing things together. And for a tournament that, like you were mentioning, the more times you kind of play that course, the more familiar you get with it, it kind of actually bodes well for you. I
Yeah,
don't see that, right, with Hadwin, and I think a lot of I guess, holes in his game or struggles that he's been having recently, they really get magnified with a course like Augusta National. So I would love to see him piece it together, but I'm kind of with you as well that in terms of the four that we're going to talk about, I'll put him number three just because good old Mikey Weir, who everyone knows is going to be on this list here. Not too sure what he'll be able to piece together there at the current stage that he's playing at, but yeah, definitely comfortably behind the other two who have shorter odds than him for sure. So he's coming in
yeah,
at 300 to 1. He's the worst out of the three current PGA players that are on this list.
yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, let's bring up who you just mentioned. The only Canadian to ever win a Masters in Mike Weir. Um, Again, this is kind of going back to our opening segment with the nostalgia, right? Mike Weir obviously put together one of the most surprising tournaments in Masters history when he won back in the early 2000s. And again, I think every time you get one of these savvy vets, like we just mentioned with Fred Couples, Tom Watson, whatever, for some reason, this is the kind of course that brings out the best in them, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a calmness to them. So I I'm not saying that Mike Weir is going to be in contention because he's not. But will I enjoy watching him golf whenever they do show? Yeah, for sure. Because again, you get kind of some of those glimpses that you're not going to see the whole round, but you
Mhm.
get some of those glimpses of what made him win this tournament. When he did,
Yeah.
and the fact that he kind of has a different perspective on the course because he's a lefty. That also kind of is a nice, fun twist to it as well. Because you see, actually, a lot of left-handed golfers have success at this course, like Bubba Watson, Mike Weir, and so on and so forth. So this is one where I think from a Canadian perspective, everyone's just kind of saying, "Hey, you get him, go get him, Mikey, and just do your best, and we're going to be proud of you regardless." So I don't think there's a lot of expectations on Mike Weir, but definitely one guy that we're all going to be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. 2003 Masters champion. It's his 25th appearance now. So for those that aren't aware, the Masters, you win it once, you essentially get invited back every year. So
A lifetime invitation,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah. So and you get to get changed in the champions lounge and locker room. And for those that have watched the Full Swing documentary on Netflix, I can't remember who the golfer was, but he walked in there, current PGA Tour player, and the security guard like lost his mind. Hey, you can't be in this. So they take it seriously. It's not just like, oh yeah, that's the champions
Yeah,
lounge, but do what you want. Like it's kind of a red velvet draped cord in front of it that if you're not on the list, you don't go in there, my friend.
yeah. And
Um,
you're definitely not getting invited to the ninth green at 9 either.
yeah,
I mean that's an exclusive club that only a certain few can attend.
yeah, dress nice. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a nostalgia there, right? Where, like you said, he's probably going to get what 3 to 5 maybe highlight packages the entire
Yeah,
weekend. But it is kind of cool because for these guys that are coming back that have already won it, that he's on the PGA Champions Tour right now, right? He's 53 years old, so he's qualified for that. So he's already moved on to the second phase of his professional golf career. He's just out there swinging free and loose. And hey, if I can go one or
yeah,
two under, like whatever, right? So if you're one of those players who's coming into this tournament and you've never played at Augusta National before, like that's kind of the type of person you want to get paired with on Thursday and Friday, the savvy vet who has no illusions of going out there and really winning it, but kind of knows the course and might even drop some little helpful hints to you. And he's just out there for a good time rather than, oh, I'm paired up with Tiger Woods in his prime
Yeah.
and the circus that goes with all of his rounds and the laser like focus. Like, you don't want to be friggin' paired up with Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, these guys. You want to be the, hey, I'm just here for some fun, and
Yeah.
if I even make it to Saturday, that's a bonus for me at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And you said it. I mean, you look at a lot of the former champions, I think a lot of them have specific quirks that make them kind of those people you'll want to golf with, right? Like the Mike Weir, like you said, probably going to be. I remember back in 2003 when we played it, this way. This is the reason why I was able to, cut that corner and get it here, right? He'll be the guy who's giving you tips as you go. Whereas, you're golfing with guys like, the John Daly's or the Angel Jimenez or, that whole group. And it's like they're smoking darts the whole time. They're, drinking Diet Cokes like they're going out of style. And, it's mostly just
And
kind of a
don't you
party.
ask him what else is in that mug of his with the
Don't
Diet
you
Coke.
ask him? Yeah.
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 Don't ask about my mug. Won't nobody have no problems here.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference coming out right there. Good job.
But yeah, Mikey 1,500 to 1. So you want to sprinkle, $10 on him? You can have yourself a nice little payday. But again, I think $10 could probably be spent wisely elsewhere
Yeah.
than Lefty pulling through again.
Go buy a loaf of bread or something like that.
Yeah, a single slice of cheese in today's economy. But that brings us to our fourth Canadian in the field there, and that is Mr. Nick Taylor, who is making his second Masters appearance. Tied for 29th in 2020. He's coming in at 250 to 1 odds, but has a little momentum, right? He's the reigning RBC Canadian Open champion. He's been known to come through in some big moments. He's got some victories on the PGA Tour, in the last calendar year. So is this the time? Like, out of the four of them, is he kind of who you think is going to emerge? Or are you sticking with Connors? Where do you fall on kind of this quartet of Canadians when it comes to Augusta this weekend?
Like I said earlier, I think if I'm to put money on somebody, I'm putting it on Corey Connors just because of that veteran savvy, consistency, and experience that he's got there. But I mean, I think the betting public will probably prefer someone like a Nick Taylor with the reasons why you just specified. He's probably got the most complete game out of any Canadian in the field. Obviously, he's got momentum because of some tournament wins that he's had this year, along with some top 10 finishes. And again, whenever this guy has been forced to make a big putt or hit a big shot when he needs it, he's doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is exactly the type of mentality that you need to have, because you talk about when Tiger Woods was, going through his dominant period. Every time he needed a putt, he made it. Every time he needed to, stick a shot from the bunker, within 10 feet of the pin to tie, he did it. So this is what you're seeing out of Nick Taylor lately, which is good. It bodes well for his chances. Mm-hmm. Now, when I look at where he could kind of fall into that, downfall, the last time he played this course was 2020. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time, right? So we mentioned Adam Hadwin kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down. How is this? The first day is really going to be the ultimate test for Nick Taylor. Can he get off to a hot start? If he can kind of maintain, a good consistent level of, accuracy on day one and finish, 2-3 under par, I think that he'll have success and a good chance at competing, as we creep closer to Saturday and Sunday. So I think day one is really going to be the make or break for Nick Taylor. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the running. I just think that someone like a Connors has, a better chance to maintain, a level of zen, like consistency that you need when you golf at the Masters, for sure.
Yeah. And, I think at least Nick Taylor fans will be hoping that it's kind of this slow rise
Yeah,
that, all right, we're progressing, we're starting to put together some wins, we're starting to piece things together. The player he is in 2024 is nothing compared to what he was in 2020, right? Like we're going in a positive direction in all facets of his game. Like I would love to be able to putt as consistently from 6 feet as he seems to be able to from 60 feet, because it seems every time he's winning a tournament, he's hitting some sort of bomb from a different area code on the green here. So
yeah,
he's certainly got the flat stick working for him. I think it really is going to be, how many greens in regulation is he going to be hitting? Is he putting himself in position to consistently have those putts for birdie? If so, guess what? He's going to be in the thick of things. But if he's starting to get a little bit squirrely and suddenly those putts are now for par, you see sort of in the tournaments that he contends in, he doesn't tend to go, 1 under, 1 under, 2 under, and then 10 under. Like it's he needs to get off to that hot
yeah,
start where if he's not in the mix by the time, the cuts have happened and he's just barely kind of hanging on, his game doesn't bode that well to all of a sudden get hot on, Sunday
yeah,
afternoon and come from out of nowhere to suddenly be in contention, right? So I think it is going to come down to how quick of a start can he get off to, right? And how many birdie looks is he giving himself? Because we know that he can putt the lights out of a course, but like we said, if he is in scramble mode through holes 1 through 9, and suddenly it's like, okay, well, I need to fight just to even get back to even here.
yeah,
I don't like his odds heading into the weekend.
yeah. And I mean, last thing I'll say on this point before we move on to the next topic, but I mean, Nick Taylor, and it's kind of fitting that I'm wearing this hat. He's like a Gigi. For those of you who don't know what a Gigi is, it's a lead horse in a race. Nick Taylor is exactly that, and you just kind of hit the nail on the head. When he is in front, he's incredibly difficult to catch. When he's playing from behind, it's incredibly difficult for him to catch the people in front of him. So I think he needs to set the pace and kind of be that, the person in front that's controlling kind of where things are going and where the cut line is going to be and all that kind of good stuff. So again, Thursday will be a very good indicator of where Nick Taylor is going to finish on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've made a few references to it already here. So before we move on, have to at least touch on the topic that Happy Gilmore 2 script is currently in the works. Adam
This is true.
Sandler. So for all of our references that we've made over the past 20 minutes here, could be a whole lot more getting added to the vocabulary sooner
Yeah.
rather than later.
If you're looking for a new commentary crew to replace Vern Lundquist and his partner from the first movie, Kyle and I will make ourselves available. We'll clear our schedules, and I think we'll do a good job.
Yeah, I'll even be one of the people in the background that needs to go back to their shanties. Doesn't matter. Just give me a shout.
I'm already dressed for it. Let's
Yeah,
go.
there we go. Moving along though, we're gonna go from nice spring weather to some icy topics here, and one of them here with our friend Mr. Landon DuPont, making a little bit of history, becoming the 9th player ever granted exceptional player status, and actually the second one ever in the WHL, behind
Yep.
obviously Mr. Connor Bedard, who
Bedard.
recently just got drafted. So he is
He's all right.
yeah, he's all right. He's doing all right things for himself there with Chicago. But 14 years old, Mr. DuPont. He plays for the Edge Prep School. That's out in.
That's so, can I just stop you there? That's crazy that
Yeah.
we're talking about a 14-year-old being mature enough and good enough to play junior hockey amongst 20 and 21-year-olds in some cases.
Well, the crazier part here is, he first of all, he's a defenseman, and he's the
Yeah.
first ever defenseman in the
The
WHL to get
W. Yep.
exceptional player status. And for those that don't know, if you look across the leagues, right, the Q is usually pretty high scoring, not nearly as physical, right? OHL, it's kind of the blend between the two, right? There's some physicality there. There's some high end prospects. WHL is kind of known as being the most rough and tumble of the league. So when a player gets given exceptional status for the WHL. That's no small feat in and of itself, especially for someone who, as a defenseman, he's only 5'11, 170 pounds. Like, we're not talking about some
Yeah.
man child, 6'5" freak of nature here. It's the equivalent of me at 14 going out there if I had any ounce of talent like he does.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, sorry, go on, finish your point.
yeah, well, I was just gonna say, so he is eligible for the 2027 NHL draft here. So this is how far in advance that we're currently projecting it. But leading his team with 42 points through 21 games as a defenseman, and that's fifth in the entire prep school league that he plays in with Edge out in Alberta there. So kind of that Paul Coffey, Eric Carlson, you know, puck moving defenseman, but you can see why scouts are drooling over this kid because, you know, puck moving elite offensive defensemen do not grow on trees, regardless of if he's 5'11 or 6'11 here.
No, and to add another name to the comparison list, you're talking about another Western Canadian, kid who had a pretty good career in the NHL with Scott Niedermayer.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, this is such a unique and congratulatory moment for this young man because out of the people who have been granted exceptional status, there's only been two other defensemen before him total, Sean Day and Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can look at the tale of two stories when you talk about those two guys. Obviously, Aaron Ekblad, had a fantastic career in the OHL, went on to be the number one overall pick by the Florida Panthers. And, barring some injuries that he sustained, he's had a very successful NHL career on a very successful, NHL team. Sean Day, on the other hand, was kind of what you were just mentioning, that, man child, 6'5", 220-pound defenseman who was granted exceptional status because I think he was physically developed to the point of, oh, well, he can compete. Look at the size of him. There's levels to this thing. You can be big, but unless you have the brain, the heart, and the physicality, you're not going to be able to compete. That's why you're seeing smaller players like a Connor Bedard excel as a exceptional status. Hopefully, we can see this young man do the same thing as Connor Bedard did. But when you kind of look at that, and again, it's a cautionary tale. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. And if you're the overseeing body who is granting these exceptional status, you really have to do your due diligence because you can ruin someone's career by doing this too early if they're not ready. So I really hope that everything has been done in order to, again, make sure that he is ready to be granted this unique, gift that he's been given. And yeah, like I said, you mentioned it as well. The Western Hockey League is a different beast.
Yeah.
You can play in a lot of leagues around the world and you can excel if you're a very good skating, puck moving player, whether you're a forward or defenseman. The Western Hockey League, you got to make sure that you're bringing your lunch pail to work every day too. And as a 14 or 15-year-old, that's a pretty tall task to request that from somebody who's going to be going against these big 6'4", big Western Canadian power forwards who are looking to smash the underage kid through the glass. So I wish him all the best because this is a very cool and unique moment for him and his family for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. And they did an interview with him after it was announced that he got granted that status, and he genuinely said that he was shaking because he actually didn't know whether he would get it or not. He was like, I spoke to my family, and obviously, he's got an advisory circle around him and whatnot, and they all said, "Listen, you've got the skill for it." But that doesn't mean it's a slam dunk that it's going to go through, right? Because of all those things we just mentioned, right? Like you're going up against some big 20-year-old, farm hands who are, you ever look back at the old pictures of like Gordie Howe baling hay in the off seasons and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, there's a huge difference between 14 years old versus, in your early 20s, just the physique of you as well, too. So,
yeah.
is his body going to be able to hold up to, again, a full WHL season? These are all things you need to take into account. Yeah, you can light up the prep school league when there's 21 games, but times that by 3 essentially, and that's kind of what you're looking at against competition that's that much older. Now, he
Yeah,
had a taste of it because he was playing on the U18 team with Edge Prep School, so he's at least obviously playing up a couple age groups here, but still it's a big jump once you get to those top 1% of these pyramids here. Like there are some very, very large bodies out there that are trying to carve out a name for themselves, not
yeah,
necessarily because of lighting the lamp or scoring
yeah,
or whatever, right? It's I'm going to fight my way to the NHL. I'm going to be a third line checker who's known for thundering hits and whatnot, right? Like you look at a local example, like that's how Tyler Boucher really made his, you know, mark. And I won't even begin to open the can of worms of, was he really worth taking in the first round where he got taken?
yeah,
That can get saved for another day. But we watched a few of his games and he's getting called for penalties that it's just like this is just a man child out there where
yeah,
people are bouncing off of him so with such velocity that it looks like he just took like an 18 stride charge at him, but it's just and that's the type of players that he's going to be up against night in night out. So
yeah,
it isn't just a okay, child prodigy. It was a foregone conclusion that this really was, something that I'm sure that advisory committee and those who ultimately made the decision thought long and hard about. Because when you go through the
yeah.
list of the other 8 before him, 7 of them I could have rattled off to you pretty quickly. And I don't know if you already went through that list and know the answer in
I
front of
did.
you here,
Yeah,
but right, Tavares, Ekblad, McDavid, Day, Wright, Misa, Bedard. The eighth one was very shocking to me there.
yeah. Again, I don't have the list in front of me, so I can't remember. But when I was looking at it, I saw the same thing as you, and I'm like, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, what was the name again?
Mr. Joe Veleno, who was a
That's right,
kind of
Volano. Yeah,
Detroit Red Wings, nothing to write home.
yes,
Made the NHL, but
yeah,
doesn't. He's kind of that one name of Sean Day as well too. He obviously made the NHL as well with Tampa, but those are kind of those two outliers where you look at
yeah,
the names on that list and it's like, all right, first overall, first overall, first overall, generational talent, like, and then, Joe Veleno, good for you.
yeah. I mean, he was still a first round pick, though, if I'm not mistaken, right? 30th overall, something like that.
Can't remember where he got taken offhand, but
Yeah,
yeah, he never really caught on too much in the NHL, right? Carved out a career for himself, obviously, but was never, a first line driving that kind of offense type player or first pairing
yeah.
defender like the other people on the list, right?
And again, like that's the risk that you run whenever you do call one of these players up before they're ready. They might look like they're ready because they're dominating people their age or a year or two older. But like you just mentioned, you know, playing against a 17-year-old, way different than playing against a 19, 20-year-old.
Yeah.
2 years at that age is a big, big gap. So again, I hope that this all works out for the best and we see, the second coming of Paul Coffey coming from this decision because definitely offense sells tickets and makes it exciting for fans to go watch a game for sure.
Yeah. Now, the one downside to him getting the exceptional status there, at least for Canadian fans, is unfortunately it's the Everett Silvertips in Washington who currently own the first overall pick in the WHL draft. So we could be seeing, one of 9 players in CHL history getting exceptional status. Unfortunately, having to go south of the border there. So who knows? Obviously, lots of years still to play in his
Yeah.
junior hockey career. Maybe he gets moved at a trade deadline or something like that. But I have to think Everett is thrilled to be picking number 1 right now.
Sure. And as we know, I mean, he'll get traded for 13 future picks in in whatever junior league he's in because that's how those trades work. So yeah, again, wish him all the best, and hope he crushes it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then switching from the rink over to the gridiron here, someone who you're actually familiar with has called it a career after 15 CFL
What
seasons here.
what a career! Yeah, what a career. So yeah, you're alluding to Mr. Chris Van Zeyl, who's the very prominent right tackle for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and again, great Cup winner. He all Canadian. He was the Canadian, lineman of the year. Like everything that you could think of that you could win, he did. And the most impressive fact, other than the longevity that he had as an offensive lineman, was the fact that he never played offensive line until he got to the CFL. Not a lot of people know that. So again, before I get into it, let's just get a golf clap for for Chris, because again, congrats on fantastic career. I mean, you definitely held it down for McMaster and the OUA. When you went on to your fame there, but again, you think about the trajectory and the landscape of where things were when he was kind of going through the draft process, which is when I was going through it. um he was a defensive lineman at McMaster. He played defensive tackle, three technique. He played a little bit as an edge rusher. So actually played against them all 4 years when I was at the University of Ottawa. I had some really good battles with him. And I think everybody who you talk to that I played with at University of Ottawa in the offensive line, we would always say like the hardest defensive line to go against every year was McMaster. Greg Marshall was the coach, legendary coach. You've got a lot of fantastic players, who donned that McMaster Marauder, uniform. And I mean, I look at that defense that we used to go against along with Chris. I mean, Andrew Jones, a good friend of mine, was my roommate when, we got drafted to BC together. Fantastic defensive lineman. You got the Binder brothers, Nick and Simon. You got Jeff Robertshaw, who's one of the most underrated Canadian defensive linemen ever in U Sport / CIS. Then you look at their linebackers. I mean, it was kind of a who's who of of first team All Canadian / CFLers with Jason Pottinger, Eugene Boaki, and the list goes on and on. So I mean, that was just such a phenomenal defense that they had, that we got to play against year in and year out. It really made us better. And Chris was always kind of the guy who you looked at as one of the most imposing players, because that was 6'7". I mean, he was just a monster when you looked at him. And I mean, coming from me, I was a 17-year-old when I was first playing, in my first year. So I'm looking at everybody like, oh my God, these guys are massive, and I'm a 235-pound left tackle. It's it didn't seem like it was fair, but yeah, had some really good battles with Chris. And the fact that he was able to transition from being a fantastic defensive lineman to being an even better offensive lineman post college is the greatest feat that I could probably ever cast amongst somebody, because again, people who don't know how impressive it is to switch positions and do it at a high level, it's impressive. To do it at an even better level when you're already playing your one position at a very good level is even out of the stratosphere. So yeah, I mean, you had two guys from that defensive line, Andrew Jones and Chris Van Zeyl, who both had 10+ year careers in the CFL as offensive linemen.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a fitting end to a very, very great career for him, and I wish him all the best in his retirement. And he definitely deserves all the flowers that you can give a big, nasty offensive lineman. So
Yeah.
again, congrats to Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Former Alouette, Argo, Cat, two-time Grey Cup champion, three-time CFL All-Star, like you mentioned, 2019 most outstanding offensive lineman. The list goes on, right? 15 years when you look at the churn and burn of the average CFL or NFL career there, it being, less than 5 years. And you're now, a decade plus into it at a very demanding position as well too,
Yeah,
where it's a small car crash going on every snap of the ball. So it really is a testament to the longevity and the dedication that he put into his craft there as well too. But uh, I couldn't get through a CFL segment if there wasn't some sort of tie-in to, all right, we're preparing for the episode. Let's pull up the bio and the stats. And did you know that despite playing 15 years in the CFL only has statistics on him back to 2016? Apparently just didn't exist prior to that. So for the love of God, we've said it once, we'll say it again. CFL, hit us up. We'll do the freaking stats for you. How has this not been offloaded to a summer intern at some point where it's just data entry? Go. This is your summer job. Put CFL headquarters on your application or resume after this. But like, get it together, guys, especially for instances like this where people are wanting to talk about your league and be able to pull things and say like, oh, well, look at how many starts he had in this year and this year and all that. No, 75 game career despite playing for 15 seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll save my thoughts on that, but yeah, again, let's just keep it positive, and we'll just say, again, great career for Chris. Happy he was able to, finish his career with the local team in Hamilton and kind of ride off into the sunset with one of the more impressive resumes you're ever going to see from an offensive lineman in the CFL.
Absolutely. Well, we saved this one for last, and I know you're very excited about this topic.
I am chomping at the bit.
Well, I did not know that this sport existed. Don't know how I didn't know that, because my mom was actually a professional figure skating coach and was a professional figure skater herself prior to getting into coaching.
Again, every time we mention it, gotta give a golf clap. Golf clap for Mama Skinner.
There we go. But Les Suprêmes of La Belle Province de Quebec just won a three-peat world championship in synchronized figure skating. So, first of all, quick golf clap to them.
Yes. Les Suprêmes. Bravo, les filles.
Second of all, did you know that there was such an event as synchronized ice dancing prior to this?
No. I found out about it when you told me that there was such an event. So I did a little research on it, and a couple of fun facts about synchronized ice skating.
I have quickly become an expert in the matter.
I'm probably more educated now than 99% of the world. So there are 20 levels of synchronized ice skating. Again, that seems like
a video game. We got to progress through the levels.
I think it means that there's junior house league, junior competitive. Like it's actually quite the popular sport when you look into it.
Okay, so this is like European soccer, where you start at the bottom, you can get relegated and advance up to the Premier League. Okay.
And do you know where the World Championships were just held?
Wasn't it in like Prague or something like that?
The budding skating metropolis of Croatia.
Oh, Croatia. Okay.
Well, when I think figure skating, I think Croatia.
Nothing screams figure skating like where they film Game of Thrones for the most part there. But our friends from St. Leonard, Quebec there. Now, even trying to figure out kind of the logistics of it was a bit of fumbling through the dark there, because even the outlets that were covering this three-peat, which from what I've gathered has never happened in the sport before. No one has ever three-peated. So Les Suprêmes are first to make that feat. But there were 19 girls in the photo wearing medals, all in uniform. So I'm assuming it's kind of like a fairly large group activity going on out there, where unlike synchronized swimming, you don't have half the team hidden underwater doing the lifts and whatnot. I guess it's a whole production.
It looks like there's like 15 people on the ice at one time.
Yeah. So maybe there were some alternates.
Which if you've ever seen a warm-up for figure skating at the Olympics, it's chaos out there. They're running into each other. I mean, you got people doing flips and sow cows while other people are trying to maintain like a back. I don't know. anyways,
The
it's
fact that
organized
you
chaos.
just
So I mean,
properly contexted the word "sow cow" would make Mama Skinner
oh,
very, very happy right there. So,
but
kudos to
my
you.
yeah, my wife is very very much into figure skating. She loves it, and she's explained all these little nuances to me. So I know all the different jumps. I know all the different maneuvers that they're doing, and it's I've grown to actually very much like figure skating. It's they're very good athletes.
Yeah.
It's insane the amount of power they can generate on skates.
Yeah.
It's a very very interesting thing when you kind of dive more into it and see how skilled they really are. But yeah, I mean,
Your
having
outfit right
15
now
people.
is kind of reminiscent of Will Ferrell in Blades of Glory right now. So you're kind of the bad
I'll get
boy
it.
figure skating fan.
I'll get inside your face.
Yeah. Go ahead, drink it in.
You could use the mane and tail all you want, but don't you dare touch the verticoli.
Yeah. Gonna skate to
But
one song
anyways,
and
yeah,
one song only.
the rest of
Gets
the
the
episode is
people
just us.
going.
Yeah, the rest of the
No, it
episode is
doesn't.
just us doing Blades of Glory song or quotes. Um, but
But
what was
the
it gonna?
reason I brought it up though is because this then segued into a whole other subculture of random sports that you may or may not know existed, but a lot of these things I kind of viewed as like, oh, okay, they're like in dodgeball where it's ESPN 8 the Ocho where it's just made up sports that
Yeah,
don't actually take place. No, all of these sports that I'm about to list have legitimate leagues and federations and prize pools and sponsors and everything. So I'm going to rattle
wow.
off just a cornucopia of obscure sports. And I would like you to give me your honest answer as to whether you knew that it was a actual sport or not. Okay.
Okay,
So
so let's do the game show voice. Is this a sport?
yeah. So
Happy to be here, Kyle. I'm ready to play. Let's go.
yeah, long time listener, first time contestant here. Got Kyle Kirkwood on the stage. So the first one, which again I thought was just kind of a cute contest that would happen once a year, but apparently there's world championships and actual qualifiers and whatnot. The wife carrying league, which literally you carry them throughout an obstacle
Yes.
course,
Yeah.
and half the time they're getting submerged underwater, and
Yep.
the winner gets their wife's weight in beer at the end of it.
Yes. I have heard of this. I've seen highlights of it, and yeah, it's quite entertaining. I mean, it can't
Follow-up
be
question:
comfortable
have
because
you tried going through an obstacle course with Mrs. Kirkwood before in such a manner?
I mean, I've tried. She hates it whenever I pick her up and stuff like that. But I like to mess with her. So, um, anyways, it's definitely something I will keep pushing for because I would like to compete in the wife carrying championships and represent Canada at the grandest stage.
There you go. So this next one,
Because I'm ready, brother.
The Rock is quickly turning into Hulkamaniac all of a sudden over here. You watch one
This is
WrestleMania and you're off the rails.
you know what, I'm all in right now. This is gonna keep every sport I'm gonna do a different wrestler.
There you go. All right, this one I'm just gonna give you the name of it, and I want you to describe to me
Okay.
what you think the sport is.
Okay, I like it.
Okay, so it is very popular in Southeast Asia. There's your only
Okay.
hint there. The
Okay.
sport is called Sepak Takraw. What would you
Okay.
think Sepak Takraw involves?
Is that the one where the two guys are kind of trying to slap each other as hard as they can on the chest?
That is not that one. But
Okay.
I know the one that you are thinking of there.
Yeah.
This one is you may have actually seen it. It's kind of like a badminton net, but it's volleyball rules, but no hands. So it's a low
Oh,
net,
with your feet. Yes,
feet
yes,
and
yes, yes. I've
chest
seen that.
only. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was quite the YouTube package I stumbled across there. They're filling stadiums for that thing. So
I,
Spak Takraw. There you go.
yes, Sapak Takro. Okay. Okay.
All right, you and the wife can try that sport next after you're done the wife carrying challenge.
We do have a badminton net that we put in our backyard, so we'll definitely try it.
Okay, so the next one I know you've heard of, but I want to see if you can piece together what the loose parameters of it would be. So, chess
Okay.
boxing. How many rounds
I've
do you
not
think you've not
I have
heard of
not
this
heard of that.
before? Oh,
No,
well,
I've not heard
my
of that.
friend, are you in for a treat when you Google this later?
Oh,
So,
I'm going to YouTube it right after.
yeah,
After I subscribe to the Diet Sports YouTube channel.
shameless self promotion. I love it. That's why we have you on here. So, chess boxing is an 11 round contest where the winner is decided by either getting checkmated or knocked out. Or, sorry, the loser is if you get checkmated or knocked out, you lose. So, it
Okay.
starts with it's 6 rounds of chess followed by 5 rounds of boxing. So, you do a round of chess, and
Uh-huh.
then if you haven't checkmated it, you stand up, you box around, then you have to sit
Okay.
back down, play another round of chess. So now you're a little punch drunk here as well too. And you're trying to checkmate the person or knock the person out. And the winner is whoever doesn't get knocked out or checkmated after 11 rounds of that.
This sounds like something that we would do in college when we were drunk and we were looking for some way to like liven up a chess game.
Yeah. Or even just a game of mousetrap.
Oh yeah, anything. It's like let's incorporate some fire or some cinder blocks into it and make it a real party. But
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah.
that's interesting that they have chess boxing. I'll definitely look that up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Ski ballet. If you want to talk about some artistic forms getting added to winter events, there's actually a ski ballet league out there where they have
Okay,
90 seconds to come down the hill in as artistic a manner as humanly possible.
isn't that moguls?
Well, no, Moguls has the bumps. This one doesn't have any jumps or anything like that.
Okay,
You're essentially just sauntering down the hill in
so you're doing like a fancy slalom essentially.
a very fancy slalom.
Oh,
Sounds like.
very fancy slalom.
Yeah.
Like, are they
Oh.
wearing tuxedos while they're doing it too?
Oh,
Or
there's costumes. Absolutely,
unreal.
absolutely, my friend.
That's phenomenal.
There's a wardrobe budget for this league. Uh
Well, I mean, I know how expensive dance and ballet are, so I mean, I can only imagine you incorporate the expensive skiing into the mix, and that's just a recipe for going broke.
yeah. Cheese rolling.
I've seen this. Yes, I do know what cheese rolling is. I don't understand the principle of it because, I mean, you roll a wheel of cheese down a hill and see if you can chase it and beat it down, but most people end up yard sailing. But
Yeah.
I know that it is a very popular sport in the UK.
You are 100% correct there, my friend. It is very popular. Very few people, even those who are participating in it, fully understand the rules, but they are more than happy to hurdle themselves down a hill after a piece of dairy. So
Yeah,
that's the long and
I
short of that
mean,
one.
anybody who's trying to work out with a belly full of dairy, you know how difficult that is. So best of luck to you people who are running down a hill after a wheel.
Yeah. Underwater hockey, which, hockey is not hard enough as is. We're going to do this one submerged in this case.
Yes, I've also seen this one, and it looks not fun at all.
No.
To essentially drown yourself while you're trying to play hockey as well. I mean, again, it seems like someone just got bored. We have ice hockey, we have field hockey. Where can we, do hockey? Air hockey. Oh, okay, well, air hockey, that's done. Okay, where else can we play hockey? I got it. Let's go underwater
Just a
in scuba
Stompin' Tom
suits.
Connors song at this point. Here we got field hockey, air hockey, bubble hockey. No, no,
I mean, we could write it, Kyle. We
no.
could write it.
You write it, they'll
Stop.
come. But talk about a sport where like a a holding penalty can turn into a life and death situation all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
100%.
Like,
This
well,
is ridiculous.
yeah. Anyways, so that was a fun one. Along the train of thought of your original Southeast Asian delicacy, there, the shin kicking competition.
Oh yes, I've seen this, and again, does not seem like it's anything fun that I would ever want to try.
No,
Because I mean, and I'll admit I have very sensitive shins, And I'm like the Peter Griffin, episode of Family Guy.
Yeah.
Whenever I hit it, you know, I'm on the ground doing like the ah. So yeah, I mean, willingly letting somebody kick me in the shins or whack me in the shins with a kendo stick or whatever the hell they do over there does not sound fun to me at all. And I mean, I don't understand. Like, there's a reason why these sports are so obscure because like no one understands why you have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what do you gain from it?
Yeah. There's absolutely nothing to gain, but apparently some people enjoy watching it, and therefore, if people enjoy watching it, people are entertainers. So they'll traipse out there and just get their shins kicked into oblivion. So
Like, all these sports sound like a Jackass movie.
most of them
Hi.
pretty much. All right, I feel like Johnny Knoxville might be executive producing some of these sports.
I'm Steve-O and I'm playing hockey underwater.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of jackass sports, giant pumpkin kayaking, which is
Oh
exactly
my
what it
god.
sounds like. So this sport does not work with your average size pumpkin. So apparently the threshold
It doesn't
to
work on the average size. No shit doesn't work on the average size pumpkin.
so apparently the threshold to joining this sport is you need to be a farmer of some sort and have like a county fair winning sized pumpkin and then have a son or daughter willing to hop in said pumpkin and sail down a river.
Inspired by the true story of Cinderella,
Yeah.
the giant pumpkin kayaking contest. It was originated in 1876.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't know pumpkins floated.
Well, when you hollow
That's
them out and stick a child in it, I guess it's got enough buoyancy.
I learned something today. There you
Yeah.
go.
Science. The more you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna just chuck some pumpkins in a river now.
All right, this one I want to get your take on what you think the actual outcome of or the goal of this sport is. So the sport's just called camel jumping. So when you hear camel jumping, what do you think is the goal of this sport?
Oh
And,
man.
and keep in mind, we have listeners of all age groups here, so
Yes,
try and keep
yeah.
this one on the rails.
100%. There's so many different ways I can make this vulgar, but um let's just say you're either doing it like a what do you call that? Equestrian with a camel, or you are trying to uh jump onto a camel with from a prone position.
From a prone position. So the second one is closer.
Okay.
This one essentially, if you've ever seen like a monster truck show where they line all the cars up side by side, oh, there goes Gravedigger over the jump, and he
Uh-huh.
just cleared whatever 5 school buses. So kind of works like that, except it's a human who will try and jump over as many camels placed side by
Oh
side
my
as
god.
humanly possible, and they can take a running start. So yeah, camel jumping. You're trying to clear the hurdles. No word. I didn't do enough research to figure out if there's an advantage to like 2-humped camels or 1-hump camels in this, but I'm sure there's some sort of science behind that.
Like, do you get bonus points if they spit at you?
I don't know if it's kind of like a game of one-upsmanship where it's like, okay, Steve just did 3 camels, add another one, line them up, boys. Here. So I haven't gotten too granular with it, but yeah,
This is kind of like this is kind of like the beer fest of obscure sports.
it really is. And I think what one of our episodes we need to travel to one of these locales and check out some of these ESPN 8 Ocho style sporting activities.
Yeah. See if a Canadian can compete in one of these obscure international sports.
Yeah. All right. So my last one, and this one's actually my favorite. You may have seen this, and it's very popular in Japan because, of course, it's called Bo Toashi. So if I am going to say, and I'll even give you a little bit of a hint here. So Bo Toashi involves two teams of 75 people each and a pole.
Uh-huh.
What do you think is the goal of this 150 person game that is wildly popular over in Japan?
I have seen this, I think, and it's basically like capture the flag, but your team is like basically thunderdoming the other team away from the pole and building a human pyramid so that way you could get to the top, correct?
Essentially, yeah. So you've got like attackers and defenders.
Yeah.
You've got 75 people, and you've got this big pole. And when we say a pole, like picture like a telephone pole, essentially. Your
Yeah. It's like
goal,
it's like Super Mario.
yeah, your goal is to make the other team's pole not be vertical, upright 90 degrees. You want to knock it over. So usually what
Okay.
they'll have is a really tiny guy on your team. You want to get him onto the top of the other team's
Yeah.
pole so they
And
can pull
tilt
it
it down.
down.
Yeah.
But the other team typically forms this wall around the pole. So it ends up being this giant barricade of human onslaught, and then people start like almost like World War Z, that zombie movie where they start like climbing up each other there and like anthilling their way up to the
Yeah.
top. That's essentially what it degrades into eventually there.
Yeah. No, I've seen that. And yeah, like that's straight out of Squid Games, that stuff.
Yeah.
But again, as soon as you mention Japan, I'm like, it has to do something with a squid. It has to do
There's an
something with a
octopus
squid.
involved in some way, shape, or
It's
form.
it's it's inking an octopus or like octopus throwing it against the walls that seeing how long it sticks up there or something like that. But
Yeah.
no, I've seen that one. I've seen the capture the flag slash Aussie rules rugby combo sport that they've got there.
Yeah. So that's the extent of my list there. So out of all of the many obscure sports we have brought up, if you were to venture a guess as to which one you would stand the best chance at actually competing in, which of the ones that we've talked about do you think you would excel at?
I mean, I'm taking the shin kicking one out of the equation already. That's like that's my nightmare. Probably chess boxing. I want to
Yeah.
say because I do know how to play chess, and I've been known to throw a haymaker or two. So I think I can compete pretty well in that one.
All right, there you go. I'm not much of a leaper, so I don't think camel jumping
Camel jumping's up your alley.
it's in my future there. So yeah, maybe I'm more cut out for the giant pumpkin kayaking circuit than the others.
Takes no skill whatsoever except for putting steroids into your pumpkin patch.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of that to say, let's bring it home here. Golf clap for Les Supreme and the Today I Learned This Sport Existed segment of our show.
Oh, phenomenal job, buddy! And yes, bravo les supreme. And yeah, let's have a good Masters weekend this weekend, everybody. And yeah, let's see if Mikey Weir can shock the nation and capture number 2.
There we go. Mikey W is going to turn back time. One more green jacket for the collection.
Let's go, says the final boss.